Welcome back to the second lecture on the awakening. In the first lecture, I established all of the characters as well as the major thematic materials that comprise the awakening. In this second brief lecture, I would like to point out the large plot arc that establishes the first few chapters of the novel. Edna Pontellier, our protagonist, has a lovely house and 2 children, but she's trapped inside of an unhappy marriage. In her society, from a legal standpoint, she is the property of her husband, Leonce. If she were to leave the house, her husband, Leonce, if he so chose, could physically return her to it, perhaps with the help of the police. She is also unable to obtain a divorce without her husband's permission. Societal norms in 19th century Creole culture encouraged men to become good providers. Leonce has a thriving business. Also, he's been able to provide a large home for his family. As the novel starts out, Leonce has clearly embraced the social norms inside of this culture, and he is confused as to why his wife, Edna, is not also embracing those norms that have been set out for her. Leonce feels that his wife should be more subservient. She should be a woman of family service, taking care of the servants and also the children. She should also take care of his desires as well. In the following scene, from early in the novel, Leonce expresses his utter frustration when his wife does not act within this code.
"What are you doing out here, Edna? I thought I should find you in bed," said her husband, when he discovered her lying there. He had walked up with Madame Lebrun and left her at the house. His wife did not reply. "Are you asleep?" he asked, bending down close to look at her. "No." Her eyes gleamed bright and intense, with no sleepy shadows, as they looked into his. "Do you know it is past 1 o'clock? Come on." And he mounted the steps and went into their room. "Edna!" called Mr. Pontellier from within, after a few moments had gone by. "Don't wait for me," she answered. He thrust his head through the door. "You will take cold out there," he said irritably. "What folly is this? Why don't you come in?" "It isn't cold. I have my shawl." "The mosquitoes will devour you." "There are no mosquitoes." She heard him moving about the room, every sound indicating impatience and irritation. Another time she would have gone in at his request. She would, through habit, have yielded to his desire, not with any sense of submission or obedience to his compelling wishes, but unthinkingly, as we walk, move, sit, stand, go through the daily treadmill of the life which has been portioned out to us. "Edna, dear, are you not coming in soon?" he asked again, this time fondly, with a note of entreaty. "No, I am going to stay out here." "This is more than folly," he blurted out. "I can't permit you to stay out there all night. You must come in the house instantly." With a writhing motion, she settled herself more securely in the hammock. She perceived that her will had blazed up, stubborn and resistant. She could not at that moment have done other than denied and resisted. She wondered if her husband had ever spoken to her like that before, and if she had submitted to his command. Of course she had. She remembered that she had. But she could not realize why or how she should have yielded, feeling as she then did. "Leonce, go to bed," she said. "I mean to stay out here. I don't wish to go in, and I don't intend to. Don't speak to me like that again. I shall not answer you."
Edna wants control over her own actions. She also wants to understand the social forces that initially moved her into marriage with Leonce, this man 12 years her senior. The unthinking habit she refers to in this passage is the social conditioning she experienced as a girl, the ideas that shaped youthful desire and ultimately led her into this marriage with a wealthy businessman. At the same time her marriage is deteriorating, Edna meets Robert Lebrun. Socially vivacious, this young man is slightly younger than her. Creole culture allows young men to establish distant courtly relationships with older women. In other words, men and women can have friendly, even flirtatious relationships with each other, so long as the relationship does not become sexual. To account for these romantic freedoms, Creoles establish a harsh punishment for anyone that transgresses from a courtly relationship into a sexual adulterous one. The offending person or couple is banished from family and friends, never allowed to return inside of Creole society. Later in the novel, we will meet Alcé Arobin, a man who has been banished. But here, in these early chapters with Robert, Edna feels free to express affection and warmth. She is drawn to Robert. At times she is emotionally vulnerable and romantically curious. Robert has been warned by Madame Ratignolle that Edna is not one of us and doesn't understand the Creole custom of distant courtly relationships. Specifically, Madame tells Robert that Edna might mistake his playful flirtation for genuine sexual interest. Robert chooses to ignore Madame's warning, but soon he learns that she was right. In the following passage, one that takes place right after Mademoiselle Reisz's piano recital, Robert begins to withdraw from Edna's company. Edna's reaction is confusion, as she doesn't understand Robert's motivation. And in this, Edna's tragic flaw begins to present itself. She cannot see deeply into other people.
It was growing late, and there was a general disposition to disband, but someone, perhaps it was Robert, thought of a bath at that mystic hour and under that mystic moon. Chapter 10. At all events, Robert proposed it, and there was not a dissenting voice. There was not one but was ready to follow when he led the way. He did not lead the way, however. He directed the way, and he himself loitered behind with the lovers who had betrayed a disposition to linger and hold themselves apart. He walked between them, whether with malicious or mischievous intent was not wholly clear, even to himself. The Pontelliers and Ratignolles walked ahead, the women leaning upon the arms of their husbands. Edna could hear Robert's voice behind them, and could sometimes hear what he said. She wondered why he did not join them. It was unlike him not to. Of late, he had sometimes held away from her for an entire day, redoubling his devotion upon the next and the next, as though to make up for hours that had been lost. She missed him the days when some pretext served to take him away from her, just as one misses the sun on a cloudy day without having thought much about the sun when it was shining.
In the following chapters, Robert is motivated by both his growing love for Edna and his fear that, if this relationship becomes sexual, he'll be banished from his family and his friends. Moreover, he's afraid that he is no longer in control of his own actions. His desire is simply becoming too much for him. This new relationship with Robert also opens Edna to sensual delights in the world. This relationship creates a space in which she can better understand her own feelings and, by extension, the depression she feels when at home. Over summer, she teaches herself to swim. This is a significant accomplishment for a woman in a heavy cotton bathing gown, one that goes all the way down to her ankles. This also in an era when physical activity was not encouraged among society ladies. But this experience with swimming increases her personal confidence that might also assist her desire to control her own actions inside of marriage and define her identity within society. But the book has already warned us, as readers, that this journey from the early awakening to useful action is a difficult one. It might be particularly difficult for someone such as Edna, who cannot see deeply into others. And with this, the larger plot of the novel is then established.